memory of Poppy?
Poppy, when he walked in the front door and brought a box of candy to me when I was sick.
Why were you sick?
Well, when I was little, clear up into the first grade, I would get sick and have run high temperatures, and they wouldn't let me even walk. I would have to go home and go to bed. My mom would have to pick me up, take me home, put me in bed. Stayed there till the next morning, got dressed, and got ready for school. But that's the way kindergarten and first grade was for me.
So tell me about Poppy.
Poppy would bring me every time he came a flower or candy or cookies, something he knew that I liked.
Did he come often to visit?
If I was sick, he was there every day.
Really? How far did he live from you?
We lived at 61st and Paseo, and he lived at 41st and Wayne, which is just off of Paseo. We went by there and they had torn it down, remember?
Yeah.
You and Steffi went up and talked to the people on their porch. That's where they lived. And then I lived further south.
And did he walk or did he drive a car?
He had a car.
What kind of car?
I think it was a used Ford, but I don't know for sure. It might have been a Chevy. It wasn't a fancy car, but it got him where he needed to go. And he worked for the Kansas City Star newspaper in the mailing department. Yeah.
So what about Mimi? What's your earliest memory of Mimi?
Sewing a dress for me, sewing anything for me. If I wanted it, she got her sack of fabric out and made something. She made my wedding dress. I was going to make it, and of course, there were so many things going on that I never would have gotten it done probably, because it was 4 rows of lace and tulle.
So you bought the fabric for it, and then she took it and made it, or?
I drew the picture the way I wanted it to look, told her what I wanted, and she went to the fabric store and bought it. Well, I gave her the money too, because I was teaching school then, so I had some money to give her. You're going to get Daddy too hot, honey. Don't get him too hot, okay?
Did Poppy like to?
I don't ever remember him saying anything much about swimming.
What about Mimi?
No, because Mom was the swimmer in the house. She won all the local parades. They always had a swimming float in it, and right in the middle of it, it had a big round, I don't know what they put in it.
Like a pool or something in it?
In the middle of it, and they had the dancers from the different dance schools. Well, this one woman was so mad because Mimi had only paid a couple of dollars a week for Mom's dancing lessons, and she won the dance contest, and then she turned around and won the swimming contest.
Oh.
Yeah, Mom was good at swimming and dancing both.
So, did Mimi and Poppy always live on Wayne?
On the what?
On Wayne?
No, I think they lived on Olive, which was further north and further, I'm not sure exactly where Olive is, but it's down further north.
Do you remember going to that house? Do you know when they moved to the house on Wayne?
They bought it, and the other houses they just rented. And so yeah, because it was special, you know.
Did they buy that when Mama was a girl?
When she was little.
So that's the only house you remember them living in.
Mm-hmm. I heard they talked. Mimi would talk about a house being on a certain street because they had to go by that house to get on the streetcar to go downtown.
So, if you have any other ideas or questions to ask, help me out here. Did you ever meet Mimi's mother?
No, well, I'm not sure, because I remember we used to go downtown downtown Kansas City on the streetcar. We'd get off the streetcar and go right in the dime store and go to the basement, because that's where they had the bargains. Mimi'd take me down there and always buy me something. That's where all those China birds came from.
Uh-huh.
And she gave them to them to sell. I grabbed a couple of them and gave them to Paul, because Mimi had promised him that he could have them.
So, but back to Mimi.
And so,
Did you ever meet her mother?
no, I was going to tell you, we were walking down the steps, and this lady came up the steps, and Mimi told me to move over in front of her, in front of Mimi, so the lady could get up the steps. And as she passed me by, she smiled, but she didn't say hello. And I asked Mimi who that was. She said, "That's my mother." That's the only thing. I don't know her name. I don't, don't know anything about her other than that. But she didn't say hello to me. She just smiled.
Did you meet her father?
Mm-mm.
Did you ever see him?
Never heard a thing about him.
So can you describe what Mimi's mother looked like? Did Mimi look like her mother?
No, because Mimi didn't look like the pictures that, like you have that one that's so pretty of her with the baby. Mimi didn't look like that at all. That was when she had some makeup on, and she never wore makeup. You know, she just had her little curls on her, all of her hair when she washed her hair like I did this morning, and they didn't get dry. And she didn't, she didn't. But every once a month she belonged to the, oh goodness, one of those committees. You have to be a something or other to be a member. I don't know what it is. I can't think of it right now, but I'll come across
Daughters
it.
of American Revolution, or what?
Well, we could belong to that. Yeah, I've got stuff that I think we can belong to that, no problem. But she belonged to something else that her brother, two brothers that were out in Seattle, and where was the other one? One was in Seattle, and I don't know where the other one was.
Portland?
I think so, yeah. They wanted her to come out there and join the ladies' club out there because it was more, fancy. And she went out and visited them, but she didn't join. A building's still downtown, though, that they meet in. I don't know if they meet in it anymore or not, but it's... He's going to be so hot and won't understand why. He's ready to go home. That pattern you have, you bought, today, the little girl's pattern. Didn't you buy one?
No, I bought some.
You just bought fabric. Oh, I thought you bought a pattern. You must have been looking at one when I saw it.
Where did Grandma Monk and Grandpa Monk live?
Okay, this is Wayne Street. This is the street Mimi left on.
And Paseo would be here?
No, Paseo would be up here.
Okay.
And you'd go down the street and up the street, and here would be Paseo. But you go straight this way and cross 39th Street, right here, go a block. Right here was Grandma and Grandpa Monk. They rented this house.
So
It's still there. We went by it.
we did?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we did. because it was still there, but Mimi's house wasn't, it was gone. But you know what I found, and I hope I still have it, Steffi, is a picture that my dad had written on the back of it, that this was his residences. And there were two of them. You know, a lot of the, for some reason, maybe it was because of the way the land rolled down there near the river and all that, all up the hill. But there were two houses right next to each other. The walls were touching each other. And he says, this is where I lived. And they both had the two addresses on it. So I guess the family had owned both. I don't know if they owned them or rented them both. I don't know how I'd find that out.
So what's your earliest memory of Grandmother Monk?
Scared to death.
What's your earliest memory?
Scared to death.
Why?
She was very strict, and I got chewed out because I stirred the cake the wrong way. You stir cake, when you start going this way, you keep going that way. You don't, or you don't do that. You have to make it all go the same way. And she really got mad at me because I didn't make it go the same way. Nobody told me that before.
So what about Grandfather Monk?
Grandfather Monk was a character. Grandfather Monk and Rock. They had 3 rockers. They were different sizes, and they were that rattan or something like that fabric that was woven. And they were, like I said, they were all rockers, but they were different. I guess because he was short and thin, he had a smaller one than the others 2 were. And then they had a swing, but I don't know what happened to it. But the shorter one, he'd sit in that with a pencil and a newspaper. I didn't know what he was doing. And I kept saying, Grandpa, what are you doing? I'm just looking at the paper, honey. I'm just looking at the paper. And then he'd mark something. I said, what'd you put on there? Just some information, honey, just some information. He was betting on the ponies. And he lost their poultry company by doing that.
What was the name of the poultry company?
I don't know, honey. I don't know what the name of it was. Then he went to work for another one that's still in business, as it was 10 years ago. And it was, the guy hired my grandpa because he had all the customers in Kansas City, all the restaurants and any place that used chicken or eggs, he had their business. So they hired him right away the minute he lost his business, so that they'd have that business on their line.
What was your favorite toy as a child?
My favorite toy? Oh boy. My pony.
Pony?
A real toy?
No, not a toy, not a real animal, a toy. What was your favorite toy?
Hmm?
No, it wasn't that either, sweetheart. I have a wooden doll that was put together, and I don't know whether it was mine or Bob's, but it belonged to one of us. It was in my dresser. I don't know if it still is or not. And like I say, I don't know which one it is. I don't know whether Bob would remember that much either.
What other questions should we ask?
You're going to get.
Pony?
Tell us about your pony.
She what?
Tell us about your pony.
My real pony? Well, she was a mama pony, and she had a baby pony, and her name was Judy. And there was a book called Punch and Judy, because this little Judy was such a little imp, he got into trouble all the time. And guess what my little Punch did? Got into trouble all the time. He'd come walking up beside the big ponies and bite him on the side of their leg or on the side of their hip. It was a he though. He was a little imp. He was a naughty pony. And I had them both until my mom and dad decided it was too expensive, and this man came along, and he was a member of some camp carnival company that traveled all over the United States. And they were going around finding the best behaved ponies, and they took Punch and Judy,
They took Punch?
both
I
of
thought
them.
you said Punch was naughty.
He was. But he said he straightened him out, so I don't know what happened to him. Because they, like I say, they went all over the country and they were gone. They were kind of like some people I know. Got in trouble.
Did you like it?
What you looking at, honey? Is what?
Nothing.
Nothing.
So tell us about the first time you saw Dad.
The first time I saw him, oh my gosh, honey, I don't know, because during Pledge Week, when we went through the sorority houses, we'd go to the sorority house, we'd pick out which ones we were listed on. Somebody wanted us to be there. Well, I had an aunt that wanted me to be a tri-delt, and I didn't want to be a tri-delt. Not at Missouri, anyway. So I didn't go to their house. Oh my goodness, was she mad at me. But anyway, that's the way it goes. The next weekend was the weekend before Thanksgiving, and everybody went home for Thanksgiving. And then they'd come back and have finals. And I came back early because I wanted to study. I wanted to make good grades. I made really good grades. But your dad's grades flipped from way high to way low that week because we went out. But I had known who he was, but other than that, I didn't, you know. Because he dated one of the girls that was on the floor above me for a while. She was a really good dancer, and he loved to dance. Yep. Yep, he did. Well, when I got back from school, he had a ring for me. That Thursday, that before Thanksgiving, when I got back. He says, I borrowed this car, I want you to take a short ride. I said, I've got to go study. I told you that before I came back. He said, well, we got to go out and eat, because on Sunday they didn't have meals in the sorority and fraternity houses. You had to go to a restaurant and eat. And so we went out to eat. Well, he ended up going down this highway road on the outside of the main road through Columbia, and I thought, where on earth is he going? There's no place down here to eat. He said, well, I have to talk to you a minute. I said, okay, just hurry up. So I didn't know what he was going to say or anything. So he put his hand in his pocket and pulled out the box. And he said, open it up. So I did. I still didn't. I was, you know, blindsided, I guess. And I took it out, and it was my wedding ring and engagement ring in a box together. And he said, will you accept it? But he said, I can't go, we can't get married till after, well, we graduated in the first part of June. But he had to go on a world cruise starting the first part of June, and they wouldn't be back till that world cruise. And they stopped in every big port all the way around the world. In fact, that's where he got his hives, because they got off someplace where they had fresh pineapples growing, and he cut one up and just started eating it, and he said he had hives that big. He said, when you've got hives that big on the outside, they're that big on the inside too. And he was miserable.
You know, the same thing happens to Matthew when he eats fresh pineapple.
No.
Yeah.
Stay away from pineapples.
So, So how long were you dating Dad before you guys got engaged?
Before I'm sorry,
How long were you dating before you got engaged?
just a few months because I knew he was going. And so he said, I want you to go ahead and wear the ring. He said, because he said, we just have to plan on when I get back.
But I mean, before he gave you the ring, how long had you been dating?
Less than a few months.
And then,
See, I knew him because he had dated two girls in our sorority house. One of them was, I said, was a good dancer, and he loved to dance. And they were fun to watch because they put all kinds of tricks in their dancing, and that was before I ever dated him at all. And then when my sorority sister that I roomed with, she wanted me to go out with them after Thanksgiving when I got back, just to get something to eat. That's how it all started.
that's how all what started.
Our dating. We went out to eat. And then we went to play, what is it,
Bowling?
bowling. I'd never bowled in my life. I beat them all.
So
They wouldn't believe me.
So that was at Thanksgiving,
Mm-hmm.
and then you got engaged when?
That end of that week, beginning, well, see, school was still out part of the beginning of the week.
So you started dating him and got engaged the same week?
Yeah. Oh, honey, I'd known him because he dated some of the girls in my sorority house.
But you were only dating him a week when you got engaged?
Yeah.
Have you ever heard that story?
No, but I'm a guy, so.
Have you ever heard that story? I've never heard that story. Whoa! You haven't either? Or you have?
Tell me about your mom.
Oh, I thought you were finished. More now. Can we talk about her another night?
Oh, I suppose so.
All right, if you do a quick one.
Tell me about your mom.
My mom was very attractive, and my grandmother made all her dresses for her, so she really looked good in them. And she worked for what was the insurance company? It was a really good insurance company, and they were down close to the Hallmark building. And the girls would go from that building over to the Hallmark building and eat lunch. That was for the Hallmark people. And this one day, she said they were sitting at this table, and this man came up and patted her on the back, and she said she just sat there stiff. It was Mr. Hall from Hallmark's. And he said, don't be concerned. He said, we're glad to have you here. He said, which of the other departments do you work in? And she says, I don't work here at all. And explained that, you want some water to drink? Oh, okay. And so he said, you come over here and eat your lunch or breakfast if you want to. And she did.
It wasn't ready?
But she must have been cute to be, you know, she was real tiny and real cute. And they decided to get married, Mom and Dad. And they got on the train and went up to Excelsior Springs, Missouri. There's a big hotel, it's still there. And they still have weddings, and it's quite the thing to go up there and get married. And
What's the name of the hotel?
this Excelsior Springs Hotel.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you come down, if you come from, like, let's see, that's not 40. It's whatever this road is, goes this way. It goes this way. And you go down, you get into this town, and you see these houses, and all of a sudden there are all winding kind of roads that go down, and they keep going down, they come down, and everything comes to this hotel. There's other buildings around, but that's kind of the main.
So do you know anything about when they met and got married or anything?
Yes. My mom and dad both went to the, I think it's the Presbyterian church. I'll have to drive me over there someday and see if I can, because it's still named the same similar name as when they went to school there, or Sunday school. But they started going, and of course my dad was very easy to talk to and could sell anything. Well, that's why he worked for Ford Motor Company. He could sell anything. But he got up in front and introduced himself, and they had a unanimous vote to have him be the president of the Sunday school class. And they picked my mom as the secretary. So that's the way they got together.
Huh. It wasn't the Country Club Christian Church, was it?
No, that was where I was married.
I know, I remember that. I mean, I remember, that's where Bob was married too, right? Bob and Connie?
I'm trying to think if that was where they were married or not. Maybe we could have them write a letter to Bob and ask him to write information down.
Whether we're related to the Spohrs in Kassel, Germany. If they've done
Where'd you
DNA
go?
tests.
4th Street, 4th,
Who?
4th Street, yeah, 3rd Street was where the meat market was.
Florence lived on 3rd
And
Street.
across, yeah, she lives down on that corner, and this corner right here is the fire department. They sold that land to the fire department, because they owned all that.
Is that where Ludwig's confection store was?
You know, I'm not sure about that, honey. I'd have to go back and look at all that stuff.
Was that the buildings that they owned and then the apartments that they lived in above? So I'm pretty sure that was the confection, one of those was originally the confectionery.
Mhm.
And one of the, down below, and another one was a pool hall that Frank and Lewis owned, right?
That's where they think he, was it, which one is Ludwig?
Ludwig was Grandma Spohr's husband, but he's the one that died.
He's the one, is he the one that fell?
Yes.
Okay. They think that he had one of those ladders that slid along the bookshelf, and that it caught on that paper roll. You know how they have those big paper rolls at the end of the, well, it somehow, when it was coming, that was coming down, somehow that got caught, and it threw him so that he fell and killed him. Careful! You'll have a sore nose.
So did Grandma Spohr ever talk about her childhood or her husband or her mother?
Mm-mm.
What did she talk about?
Yeah, they had that brewery and a lot of stuff when they were overseas, but when they were here, they had I think maybe they might have had a beer place here. You know, where the people can go in and get a drink of beer, that kind of thing. I don't
Well, there next door to the confectionery there was a pool hall, and I imagine there was beer at that, don't you? I mean, it would surprise me if there wasn't.
I don't know.
So,
I don't think any of those people are